Right, and you know the level you want.
Fade it in.
Right. Yeah, once you get
out.
it.
Yeah. And then we're good to go. That's why it's easy. And this is Roddy Radio, and we're here with a very special guest today.
Yeah.
You guys might know him from Griddy Knows Best. You might know him as, some people know him as Thomas, some people know him as 8 Slim. But of course, we're here with your boy, Griddy.
Gurfy, Gwiffy, many names.
Lots of names, man. What do you prefer to go by? Like
it doesn't
in your personal
matter.
life.
I'm very flexible.
Yeah. I feel like 8 Slim.
Call me whatever you want.
8 Slim should keep going on more.
8 Slim is that. Yeah, that's one of the best. That's one of the best. Really, it kind of weirds me out when people call me Thomas a little bit.
Really?
If you're like my friend, like if random people call me Thomas, but if you're like my friend, I feel sometimes I'm a little weirded out for some reason. I'm like, I have other names you can call me. It doesn't feel as as close. You just call me Thomas.
Really? Yeah, because that's like your legal name. So
yeah,
it's
exactly. It feels very formal.
Yeah, a little too formal.
I don't call it Dre. He goes, "Hey, Thomas." I don't like that. I feel like I'm in trouble.
Yeah. Oh man, I'm over here burping and shit. Hey, you guys don't burp on your show anymore, huh?
I don't know why. Yeah, we don't really burp on the show. I don't really burp on the show that much.
That was a big thing.
I don't think I've been
first.
burping normally though. For some reason, that's if I was normally burping, I would be burping on the show.
But I
guess I don't have as much. I haven't had as many stomach problems as I used to have for some reason. I don't know why, but my stomach has been pretty tranquilo lately.
Really?
Yeah, so it's been good. It's been a blessing.
Have you changed up
usually
your?
My stomach's always messed up.
You changed up your diet?
I ain't changed shit. Just my mind. I manifested it like Electra.
Yeah. She's big on that manifestation. You believe in manifestation like that?
Yeah, man, I believe it. But I believe this is what I believe. I believe you can manifest most things, but I believe in a higher power, and I believe that if some things are really not good for you, you will not manifest it.
Yeah,
that's what I believe. Because I've tried many times to get certain things, and it just did not work out. And then in hindsight, I was like, that was the best thing that it did not work out. And then some things will work effortlessly, and it was the best thing ever. So I believe that some things don't work out for a reason, but I believe you can attract things and manifest. I mean, it's happened to me many times. Like in the best way. I don't know if you want to get deep into manifesting here, but there is a pretty known like rule, I guess, not to really. Some people say to focus on it. Some people say if you want to manifest something, you write it down a million times. You look in the mirror, you say, "I have a new Beagle. I have a new car." Some people say you think about it, maybe you do that one time and you just forget it. And that's when the best things manifest for me. Like I remember I thought some chick was hot in the neighborhood the other day, right? I've seen her like a few times. And I was like, man, I really hope I see that chick again. Literally that day saw her like that freaking day. And that'll happen with so many other things, like things that I want. Like I'll be like, oh, I really wish like I had this right now. And like the next day somebody will just will get it for me or something like that. But it's always the things that I just forget about. I just kind of think about it, and then I don't even think about it ever again, and it comes. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Because you don't put that much mental energy on it.
It's more of you are thinking about it, manifesting it, but it's not like you're obsessing over it.
Yeah, some people say when you focus on something too much, you push it away with the end. You know how they say with in a relationship, if you focus on somebody too much, you give them too much attention, they're gonna get a little weirded out.
Yeah.
So I think the same thing is for when you want to manifest something.
Yeah, that makes sense.
That's what I believe.
That makes
sense.
You
ever weirded somebody out? You ever dated a girl and was like too on her? You ever a clingy guy?
I don't think so. If anything, I think it's the other way around with me. I think.
Wow.
I'm like,
the D is fire.
I'm like, I don't really. I mean, and I like doing like flowers and shit like that. Like got to be that guy also, but not super simpy either. So it's like
you're not like constantly calling them, like, where you at? What are you doing?
Yeah,
where you been?
And if anything, it's the other way around, where they're like hitting me up all the time, and I'm like,
right,
I'm busy, I'm doing something else.
That's the way it's got to be. You got to keep them. You got to have them coming to you.
Yeah,
that's how you got to be.
Yeah, but I don't know.
Never simped out. All right, good for you.
Yeah, I don't never much of a simp out like that. I think even with like my ex-girlfriend, I think it's like looking back, like after a while, I was like, wait a minute, did she like want me to like put up a little bit of a fight when she broke up with me? Like maybe beg her a little bit.
I've been there at least once.
Or like try to like win her back from her new boyfriend or something. I'm like, well,
That's crazy.
I'm like, I think she did, but I just didn't.
Their boyfriend.
Yeah, and I just didn't do it. And I'm like, it wasn't until hindsight I was like, I think maybe that's what she wanted. Game. Yeah, which is I wouldn't have, even if I had realized it, I wouldn't have played it.
No, I've definitely gotten one where the girl's like, "Oh, it's over because you're not doing X, Y, and Z," and I was like, "All right." And I think it was more like it won't be over if you just apologize and kind of shape it up. But I was like, "Oh, that's terrible. All right, see ya." I felt bad, but I didn't know. In hindsight, I didn't know that that's what she wanted. I could tell.
I think that's
there's breakups where it's final. Where they're like, "All right, this is over. You're lame. This is done." But there's some that you're like, "Oh, I probably could have." Salvage that. I think that was a warning shot.
Yeah, and it's like maybe it would have been worth it, and maybe it would have been worth it, but but again, you just don't want to go. You don't want to be the guy that's begging.
Nah, I'm not a beggar.
You don't want to be the lower hand there. So
never been a beggar.
Yeah,
no, I'm not into it.
Speaking of beggars, I actually wanted to talk about so people that are listening to this show. I almost feel like this is almost like a spinoff of your show, just because I've been on your show. I think a lot of your listeners have listened to this as well, and I'm sure they will now that you're on as a guest. We're just talking about how this is only the second show or the second or third show you've been on as a guest.
This is the only other podcast that I've been on besides Pastor's podcast. I've never been a guest on anybody's show. I'm very honored right now, and if my memory serves me right, this is an indication that you have no guests. That you had no guests left over. You had no guests ready to go. So you put up the bat signal.
It's the filler. No, actually it isn't. And I didn't want it to be that way. That's why I'm like, but I'm barely getting into the swing of it. We recorded something yesterday. I have something lined up tomorrow as well. So I'm like, so if anything, I'm banking them right now.
Right. But, I remember you did tell me that though. So that's why I thought of it.
Like, yeah.
You were like, I'm going to get you on when I got nobody left.
Well, there's no one else. No, but
I was like, wow, that is extremely disrespectful. No, it's funny.
But I like to be honest.
It's fine. It's good.
And if it was, I don't mind.
This is kind of weird, and it's a little intimidating to be on somebody's show because I'm usually running the show.
Yeah.
I'm usually cracking the whip, saying what's going to go on. So it's kind of weird being on the other end.
And just being that fact, I want it to be a little bit more of maybe a little bit of a biographical episode about you for people that don't know you. You're Griddy. You have your podcast. You've been with, what's it been, 4 years now? Is what it was?
4-year anniversary was May 16th.
So just barely, yeah. So we'll get into that, but we want to get to know you from the very beginning, because you grew up in the Bronx, so that interests me a lot. Right. Like just being from the complete other side of the country. Complete different, like the Bronx is like alien territory to me, and so that's why I said that was my transition. You said you've never been a beggar. I'm like, well, speaking of beggars, what was it like?
A lot of beggars in the Bronx.
What was it like growing up in a big city? I guess
the Bronx is amazing. New York is amazing. I mean, I would not want to grow up anywhere else. I feel like they call it the melting pot, and it totally is, and it just gets more diverse as the days go on, especially right now. I wouldn't have it any other way. I was exposed to so many different people, so many different cultures, so many different styles. I'm just an amalgamation of all my friends, of all their interests, of all my interests. And it was just the perfect place to go. It was the perfect place to be, being outside at 16 years old. That's when I pretty much started hanging out, like really hanging out outside about 15, 16. And then I was out all night pretty much from there. And you just see the craziest shit. You're out. You go to Fordham Road. It's a madhouse. That's a place in the Bronx. It's like you're in a war zone right there. There's people getting beat up. There's a guy that used to walk around with pictures of his dick stapled to his body. we had like characters in the city. We had another guy who used to walk around. He used to cover his face. We used to call him Batman. Some people called him something. He used to invite kids into his house. I think maybe that's a different guy, but there was always characters around. I'm sure every town has that. They have their characters, but in New York,
the population density just adds so much more. Yeah, because I can think about like 2 different characters here in my town, but that's
right.
It's a lot less populated, and that sounds very like Hey Arnoldish to me, and like that's always been my vision of like New York City, of any borough, is like Hey Arnold,
you got Stoop Kid,
Seinfeld,
you got Pigeon
and all
Man.
that shit. Yeah, with all the different characters. And that was one of the first things I asked you when I met you. I was like, how accurate are all these shows about New York City? So far, so
I
good.
don't.
I think.
Did I say they were accurate? I mean, Hey Arnold, I could see. I don't
Yeah.
really watch a lot of shows in New
I
York.
asked you about Bronx Tale, and you said that was pretty good.
Yeah, I
The
mean,
movie, yeah.
from what I remember, that's really like my dad's memory at that
Yeah, because
point.
that's
I'm
like the
only
'60s one.
29.
Yeah.
So I can really only go by what my dad and them say. I mean, when my mom first moved to our neighborhood in Throgs Neck, she was the darkest thing there, and she's not totally black. She's Puerto Rican. Her dad is pretty dark. He looks like a black dude, but I mean, she got some weird looks. They were not feeling her when she first came in the neighborhood. She'll tell you that. But as time went on, things got a little more diverse until it is the way it is now. But like to what your point was with the Bronx Tale, it kind of seemed like that to me when my mom was coming into the neighborhood. I'm sure generations before that were a lot more strict about things like
A
that.
lot more segregated and
Racially
shit. Yeah.
racially segregated the neighborhood. So yeah, I mean, New York is the greatest. I mean, I don't live in the city now, and I've been out of it for a while because ever since COVID, things just got too out of control. They started, they're just letting people out for everything. You see a guy stab somebody, he'll get let out same day and stab at somebody else, throw him in front of a train. COVID really kind of really rattled New York, but I did get the itch to move back to the city because right now, for those that don't know, I'm upstate New York and I'm very close to the city, a couple hours away. But I did get the itch to move back, so I could confidently say that maybe in the next 4 or 5 years I might be back
You
there.
might go back. Yeah.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun growing up there, man. I always say that I don't like stand up comedy because I grew up around so many funny people, like on a daily basis, that stand up just seems foreign to me. I don't like the way it's like set up because I grew up around so many funny people. You know
Like
what I mean? That to
organically
me, stand
funny.
up comedy doesn't do it.
Stand up is a little too performative for you, where you grew up
Yeah, I mean,
around.
you'll just walk down the street and say "What up," to somebody, and they'll say the funniest shit you ever heard, and then the next guy will say something. The next guy will say something.
Yeah. Yeah. When I discovered your show, that's something else that really struck me was just the way all of you guys sound. You're a lot louder. You talk a lot faster. You definitely have that New York thing going on. So it's like,
Yeah.
and maybe you guys don't notice it, but it's like someone on the outside. It's like, okay, yeah, yeah.
It's
Definitely
something
got
I've
that style of
noticed
talking.
listening back to the show. Because I don't listen to the show that much. I listened to it when we first started. I was a heavy editor. I was more self conscious of the show and what we were doing. But as time went on, I stopped listening. I just kind of edited, clean it up here and there. Little things. But when I listen back to the first season, I'm like, holy shit! Like I sound like you said like I sound like a caricature of
Yeah.
somebody from New York. And I just don't notice it listening to myself, like hearing myself. But when I hear myself back on something, yeah, I definitely talk super fast sometimes. I'm definitely a New Yorker for sure.
Yeah, yeah, which is cool, and that's quite the cast of characters. Yeah, it started out as all a bunch of your childhood chums,
Yeah, about four of us, so
Yeah.
three childhood friends. Yeah, that's how it started.
and the big one, the reason I discovered your show, and I'm sure a lot of people have, was Justin Simbitis,
Right.
formerly known as Simfuckus.
Who is my
legend.
background as Mother Teresa? I don't know if you can see it. Can you see? Can you see him there as Mother Teresa?
Oh
right
yeah,
there?
yeah. That
That's
was
still my
awesome.
background.
And and I, I've told you that story before, but I'll tell it on here. It's just that those were just classic videos that for the last decade plus I would go back on occasion to YouTube and look up Simfuckus just to watch those wacky videos of this weird kid.
Legend.
And
Legend.
I typed it in one day, and up comes like, oh, he's still alive, because Legend had it, he was dead. And here is a podcast where he's being interviewed, and that's the first one I listened to, and then I just started listening. And at that point, it wasn't hard to backtrack because that was pretty
Probably
early
15?
on. So yeah, something like that.
Not high.
Yeah, and so it was cool just to, and now the fact that I message with him all the time and stuff like that. I mean, it's awesome. It's like it feels like, I mean, to me, he's like a celebrity, and it's like I'm sitting here like messaging a celebrity every day, sending all that transgender porn to each other and stuff. So.
Yeah, and somehow I'm privy to that sometimes. I end up getting some strays of that.
Yeah, you catch some of those strays. But how'd you meet him, or what? How old were you when you met Justin?
I was about I was 13 when I met Justin. I went to this camp that you had to be 14 to go there. But for some reason they were like they liked me and they were like we want you to go. We think you're mature enough to go. LOL, mature enough to go. They really I showed them when we got there, but they were like, "We think you're mature enough to go." And this is what I think. Like everything happens for a reason. Things really line up. I know that you're not really keen on that one, but I truly think that because that was how I met Justin. If I would have went a year later,
Yeah.
when I was supposed to go, I got that call out of the blue, and they were like, "Do you want to go to this camp?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I'll go." And Dre was there because they're all like a little older than me, a couple months older, so they were able to go. And it was a bunch of us, guys that you guys don't even know at that we were hanging out with. And so me, my mom, my dad, we go there and they have us in these dorms all week. We would dorm in Columbia University all week till Friday. Then once Friday comes, we have Friday and Saturday off and we come back Sunday. And we did that for 4 weeks. So we go in and we're the first family there, probably. My parents are going to drop me off. We're hanging out in the room. We're getting stuff together. And the lady, Marie, God bless Marie, shout out wherever you are. She was like, yeah, you have a roommate, and I just wanna let you know, just in case, his appearance may be a little alarming. So I just want to warn you about what's gonna happen. And she was saying it in a nice way. She wasn't saying it like a bitch or anything. She
Yeah.
was saying it. She was really being nice about it, like trying to warn us. And I was like, what the hell? I look at my mom, and we look at each other like,
So you're expecting
what?
like the completely weirdest
I'm
thing you're ever
expecting
gonna
somebody with a
see.
dick on their face, like growing out of their head, or like I'm expecting maybe like conjoined twins,
Yeah.
or somebody with no arms and legs at the same time, and like with one eye, like a freaking like a cyclops. And I'm like, what is gonna happen? What is this? Like, this is kind of creepy. Like, I've never been forewarned about someone's appearance like
Yeah.
this. So we're all hanging out in the room. Dre's there, and in walks Justin. And I was like, this is what I was warned about. This dude is all. This is epic. Like, this dude is great. And I remember the first thing we asked him was like, "What's your name?" And then we said, "What's your last name?" And he said Justin Simbitis. And we, for some reason, we thought that was the funniest thing in the world. We started cracking up, like we never heard that name before, so we all started howling laughing. And then I said, "You want a snack? You want an Oreo cakes?" Or so I think one of us offered each other a snack. I had a bunch of DVDs and a portable DVD player. We started watching ICP videos, and the rest was history. For that month, we were best friends until today. I mean, we were doing all kind. We were breaking stuff. We were wrestling all over the place. He was throwing himself into the. He would run from the bed and launch himself like a dart into the wall. We'd have to hide snacks everywhere because they got into a big food fight, and then snacks were banned, but we were hiding snacks in the fucking walls. I mean, we were just it was total chaos. Everything was broken, destroyed, and we had the best time ever, and we would never stop being best friends
That's
after
awesome.
that.
And I love that about his story, just where he's always where with Heaven Progeria, they were always trying to be so cautious about it and wanting him to be
Oh
such a
my
cautious
God.
person, and here he is
Dude.
darting himself
Dude.
into the wall. It's like,
Dude, we used to be in the middle of therapy. We'd have a therapy session, all of us, like me, Dre, like five guys. We just get up in the middle of therapy and throw Justin in the garbage. Seriously, there'd be like a big dumpster there. We just say, "Hold on, give us whoop, throw him in the garbage." And I remember one time I felt bad. I didn't mean to do this. We, we were in like some lounge, and I threw him in a regular garbage can, not a dumpster. So I threw him in, and he's like, trapped. And then
oh
I
man,
slammed the garbage can on the ground, and his head bounces off the floor. And I was like, "Oh my God, did I just kill
you
this
almost
guy?"
killed him.
This guy definitely got a concussion right now. Yeah, we were slamming him. I mean, it was pretty wild, man. It was rough, and everybody got it. Everybody got beat up. Everybody got thrown around, but we were best friends.
Yeah,
Everybody was. It wasn't malicious. I remember the last night there was a huge pillow fight. And, like, we had counselors. This guy was like 6'4", and he beamed me with a pillow so hard I flew like 5 feet back. I mean, it was reckless, dude. It was insane for a month, and it was the best.
see, that's awesome. I love that, and that's something that always stuck with me from your guys, all of your guys' story. Not just Justin's, just the fact that everyone's trying to treat Justin, especially, like with such fragility, and it's like, come on, man.
Right.
Come on,
But if
one of the
anybody
wildest
said
people
anything
that-
about Justin, anybody besides us, and
Yeah.
you know what the thing is, we never we never attacked him for his progeria because that's like there's no reason to do that. There's not.
Yeah.
It's actually not funny to do that. Like
Yeah.
if it was funny, I guess we do it. But we did what every other 14-year-old boy does. We attack you on your sexuality. The questioning your sexuality. Are you gay? Or messing with your stuff, hiding your stuff, destroying your things. Throwing you around. But it just never occurred to us to make fun of him for having progeria because
Yeah.
there's nothing to make fun of.
Because
So
it's not a
when
funny
somebody
thing.
did,
It's not,
we got
and
pissed.
and it's too easy to like. You'd see these stupid comments online and stuff, and it's like, come on, man.
And it's not that we didn't make jokes about it. He
Yeah.
made jokes about it. We made like, because the thing was that they could die at any second. So we would say, oh, if you go on this roller coaster, you drop dead any second. So we made jokes about it the same way, we make jokes about our vision, but it's nothing that we would attack.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And make him feel bad about it. But if somebody else did, we'd be pissed.
And that's what it is. Friends and family. I'm like that about family, especially like brothers and cousins and stuff. Is like I can talk bad about my brothers or my cousins and stuff, and like, but I want to hear anybody else talk bad about them,
Yeah.
defend them. That's when you stand up for people. So
Exactly.
and so a bunch that we're talking about how it was all of you guys starting the show. The show started out of COVID, out of lockdown.
The show started because of COVID, but not really because of COVID. It wasn't like pretty much, and I don't say this disrespectfully, but I mean it did happen. A lot of people did start podcasts because of
shows
COVID
came
because
out
they
of
had
COVID,
nothing
yeah.
to do. And I think there were a good amount of people like us and like me who already wanted to do it, and
Yeah.
they found it was the perfect time to do it. I've been pretty much like into like entertaining and broadcasting since I was like born. Basically, there's tons of videos and pictures of me like singing and performing. And I remember when I was like really young, maybe like 5 or something like that, they had this toy. It was a radio broadcast toy, and it linked to your actual radio,
Okay.
so you can broadcast on the radio. And I got that for Christmas. And we used to do radio shows in high school and talk shit about our teachers right on the air and just say all kind of reckless stuff. So I've always been interested in broadcasting and podcasting. When I got into podcasting, I don't know, maybe like when I started listening to it, I was like, I never heard of anything like that. I was like, holy shit! Like I've heard of internet radio, but I never heard of podcasting, and I thought it was amazing. I started listening to Talk Is Jericho and Welcome to Deadcast, and the wheel started turning years before, like fucking 10 years before. And I'm thinking, should I start a podcast? I'm like, well, what I started about, I have no idea. Things snowball. 10 years later, the pandemic happens, and we're already thinking about it. And I was just like, listen, we got the stimulus check. We can get professional equipment with that. We can't, we didn't. My rule is don't spend the money you don't need to. Like, I don't recommend everybody get the machine that I got, the $700 machine. But I knew that I wanted people to call in, and I wanted a bunch of guests, and I wanted sound effects. So we took the opportunity to use the stimulus money and get the equipment, and the show started from there. Right, a little bit after lockdown. So yeah, May, a little bit after or something like that. Yeah,
that sounds about right. Yeah, because everything started locking down. I think like in March.
Right.
Like I remember that March 2020, we went to Disney on Ice, and it was like a week. It was at what the hell's that stadium called? The one where the Jazz play, the NBA the NBA team.
Yeah.
And like days after we went to that, they were like, oh, a bunch of the Jazz players like have COVID, and we're like, oh shit. I was like,
did Elsa get COVID and Pumbaa? And
I think they all did. Yeah.
Too?
Yeah, and the Toy Stories
and Woody.
But I just remember like, I mean, we were also unsure about what the hell COVID even was, so it was like we were just at the Jazz's place. Like, was the COVID rampant in that whole stadium, and we all have it now. But so that's how I remember it was in March. So yeah, so it must have been shortly after when you guys started, and you often have cited you guys were always doing not Zoom calls, but what was the other thing? Skype calls?
Yeah, that's the other thing. Yeah, we thought we might as well do a podcast because we're on FaceTime 24/7. We're talking shit the whole time, so we might as well show everybody how crazy these FaceTime calls could get, or what we're talking about, and we've heard we're entertaining, so let's see if that's true.
Yeah. Yeah, and I've seen a definite evolution in the show where the beginning was a lot like that kind of get to know you guys stage where it was a lot of personal stories and a lot of even just following certain dramas that were happening in your life and Crow's life or Justin or anybody else on the show. And now it's a lot more variety, I would say.
Yeah.
And you've
The thing when we
kind of
first
found
started,
that.
I didn't want to do current events because I thought everybody's doing it right now.
Yeah.
It's like a time where everything's in total turmoil. Like, let's talk about anything but what's going on
Yeah.
right now. Let's not talk about COVID. Let's not talk about all this other shit. And then eventually, as we went on, we I thought, well, we're on YouTube now because we didn't start on YouTube. That's the thing. We didn't start posting on YouTube. But once we started posting on YouTube, I thought, well, how are we going to get into the algorithm if we're not even trying? Like we're not going to get into the algorithm if we're not talking about things that are relevant. So that's when we started integrating more relevance. And we did do current events in those early episodes, but it would always be like at the end, and it would be like very small topics, like like very. It wouldn't be every episode, like you're saying. It was very minimal. But once we started going on YouTube, I said, okay, I think this is the perfect time for us to start talking about current events. We'll get into the algorithm more, and I think we're ready to do that.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, and I think those have all been wise choices, and that's why it's been growing and continues to grow, I think.
Thank you.
When did you get...
I don't make very wise choices all the time, so thank you.
Yeah. Yeah, well, I'm the king of that too, so. The 6-hour special, when did you first have the idea to do a 6-hour episode of a podcast?
6-hour special, definitely. I remember the moment it happened. I was downstairs in my grandma's house, and everybody's on the phone as usual at that time. Everybody's on FaceTime, and that's when we came up with a lot of ideas. I would just say, what if we did that, and what if we did this, and it'd be funny if we did. It'd be funny if we for Christmas we all gave each other gifts that we hated, and we do Secret Santa. So we were always spitballing stuff. Some stuff we did, some stuff we didn't do, some stuff we cannot do because it would get us kicked off of YouTube. But I think I was talking about like, what if we did a 24-hour stream? I said, what if we did a 24-hour stream? And then I thought that's very ambitious. Let's not do that. That we cannot do that. And I said, well, how could we start? I said, like, how could we start to kind of gain strength to do something like that of that magnitude? And then I said, I think you know what it was. We not a 24-hour stream. We looked up the world record for the longest podcast, and I said, let's break that. And then I said, well, how are we going to do that? Let's start working our way up to that. And then I just thought, I don't know, 6 hours came to my mind. I said, well, let's do a 6 hours. It just the name, 6 hours. It's like a branding name. 6 Hour Spectacular. It sounds cool. Yeah. It sounds fun. It's not. It might be 8 hours, maybe a little too long. But 6 hours seems like the perfect amount of time. And it has that. What is that called? That name that when you make a title with the same letter. What is that called? You know what I mean? When you make a title or a sentence starting with the same letter. It sounds good. So that's pretty much how it came about. Just with a little idea like that, and we scaled it back to 6 hours.
Yeah. 6 hours makes sense. I think it's like you said, eight is too long, but you still want something that's like long, but it's not going to scare people away. Yeah, I remember that first.
Not that we just didn't do 7 this year.
Yeah. But you worked your way up to that, like you said.
Yeah.
I mean, the first 6 hour special, you got to 5 hours. And you were pretty much done with everything. You guys had to
thank God for Crow, man. That would have been the 5 hour spectacular.
Had to get into it for that last hour.
He saved that show because I was rushing. I rushed a lot of the shows at that time, and I just was trying to get through things, and then I realized, holy shit, we're done with everything we planned. What are we gonna do? And then we just started talking. That was one of your favorite parts of that show.
Yeah. That's still my favorite part of that 6 hour special is the very end where you guys like got into like personal stuff and this. I remember waking up that day because I go into work at 6 a.m. and so Tuesday mornings I open up my Spotify and usually there's a Griddy Knows Best episode, and so here's a 3 hour because you have to split it up on Spotify into 2 chunks. Yeah. So I'm like 3 hour episode. God damn, these guys got down. Then I scroll up and there's another 3 hours and I'm like, what the fuck is this? I was like, so it was and so now it's just that yearly thing of like going to work and like taking all day to listen to it, because obviously, I pause it on break or if I need to, talk to someone, I have to pause it. So usually those 6 hours turns into my 8 hour shift, but I mean, I'm
glad to hear that.
It's awesome, man. I that's one of the best ideas you've had.
It's my favorite part of the year. I always look forward to it. I always love it. A lot of times we really start turning the wheels about 4 months before. and that's when we usually start doing our big stuff, and we start planning like the big hook of that episode, like the what was it, last year we did the death tender challenge, so we
Yeah.
started working on that months before we went down to Myrtle Beach. We did that, we had that ready to go. This year it was getting our virgin friend laid. We started that 3 months before, and then we just kind of start working on the show from there, as we go along through those 3 months. And it's always the best, like it's always the best time because I'm involved in every aspect, planning it, doing it, editing it, and it's so much fun. Every aspect of it to me is fun. And this year was the best one because every aspect of it was the easy. It was easier than every year. I didn't
Yeah.
have COVID during it. It wasn't our first rodeo, so I knew how to time things better, and I knew to just let things go over. Like the first year I was like very strict with timing the segments,
Yeah.
and now I'm just like let's. Now I basically we every year when we time it, I just lowball it in my mind, so I know because usually we'll have stuff pre-recorded. So the day of, I want to know how much time we have left to do. We have like 3 hours, 4 hours. So now I just let things go and that's why we got an almost 7 hour show this time. But we look at it like our WrestleMania, like our big, like our Super Bowl, like our
One time a
big
year,
episode that you
huge
can look
event.
forward
Yeah.
to every year, and it's gonna be like a big spectacle. So I'm always proud of it, and it's my favorite part of the year,
Yeah.
pretty much,
And you have,
podcast wise.
and throughout the year, you have a lot of kind of staple episodes. Now you have the Christmas
Yeah,
episodes
Halloween,
and the Halloween, the Valentine's Day. Like, yeah,
Valentine's Day.
like I would have never imagined a crew of the type of people that are on Griddy's Knows Best team to have like a Valentine's Day be a thing. But
Yeah,
they've been some of the best episodes throughout the
I get
years.
that a lot from wrestling, man. Like I've grown up watching wrestling since I could remember, and that's kind of the model. You have like a pay per view, you have a big show, and
Yeah,
that's I've always kind of thought of it that way. Like I want because I don't want it to just be a podcast. I want it to be a show. I want to give people a little extra. I want to make people happy. I want to entertain people, and I want to do more than the average podcast would do as much as we can. So I think that's always something that appealed to me with wrestling and with other things like growing up listening to ICP. They went above and beyond a lot with a lot of things they did. They had their yearly things. They had their things you could look for, their concerts. They had their Halloween concert, Christmas concert, their summer concert, and a lot of other things. So they made things special,
yeah,
and that's I grew up on that. So I want to give that to our audience, and it's also fun for us to do it.
yeah.
It's not,
It
and it
gives
breaks the
something to.
monotony of what's going on,
Hmm.
and it gives us also something to talk about. We talk about what happened behind the scenes. It makes it special.
Yeah, yeah, and I think and you've never been afraid to push those boundaries in that envelope of like you're always outdoing yourself. I think like each year
Thank
you,
you,
you
thank
get
you.
crazier. Each year, like I don't know if you're gonna top this last Valentine's Day episode.
We didn't think we were gonna do it with the Death Tenders. We were
Yeah,
like, how are we gonna top
but
this?
like I don't know how you're gonna do it, but I'm fairly certain you will. So
And the way I told Clay this because he said the same thing, and I said we're not going to top it. We're just going to do something different. Like
yeah,
we went to the highest level we could on the hot stuff, on the peppers.
yeah,
We reached the highest Scoville you can possibly do. We made the hottest chicken tenders in the world, and they fucking almost killed Mo. Like we're not going to top that.
yeah,
So we have to do something else. And as a creative person, I hate to say that because I feel like I sound like very pretentious, but as a creative person, I don't really look for stuff. I let it happen. Like that Leonard thing just happened because we were talking to him.
yeah,
And I was like, all right, 2 seconds. Like, as soon as he said he's a virgin, I said, you're going to lose your virginity on the show. Boom, we're going to make it happen. And you got the call like 20 minutes later. I said, yo, you want to help us out with this?
yeah. No, yeah.
So my theory is never to top something. It's always to do something else.
You're always
and
keeping
make
an
it.
open mind. You're always absorbing those ideas as they come to you.
Yeah, I try. I mean, Valentine's Day, that one's a hard one to top, to be honest,
Yeah,
because you can't really. That one's a hard one because you can't really do much different. It's always going to be that vibe,
yeah,
And this year, I mean, if you watch this year, I don't know. I don't know how we're going to top that.
yeah. I don't think.
That was fucking insane.
Yeah,
Man.
and the thing is, like, I think both Crow and Miss J
Jay.
tested the waters the first time she was on with the dom off, and
Yeah,
then like
that was, and
they
we didn't think
kinda-
when that happened. I thought, how are we gonna top
yeah,
that?
and
Like,
then
that
this
was
time around,
so
it's like
good.
they were more comfortable with each other. They knew each other. They knew they could go a little further, and they went a
Yeah.
lot further, and and it turned out
Yeah,
great.
it
Yeah.
was magic, man. It was magic, and I think I should say that to anybody. I mean, if I have any influence at all, it's like when this year's 6 hour special came around, I was a little nervous because I wasn't working on it, as I said on my show, as much as I was because I didn't feel it. Like it's just something you can't articulate when it comes to ideas or creative endeavors. If you don't feel it, it's like it's you don't, right? So we had the Leonard thing lined up, but nothing else was coming to me, and I didn't have like the spark yet.
Yeah.
But I didn't panic about it. I was like,
Like it'll
just
happen. It'll
just
happen.
let it happen, and it happened 2 weeks before, which is not a lot of time. Not a lot of time to set up, I believe, a show like that. But everything just went boom, boom, boom. I mean, everything we did was yes. We had no roadblocks on that show. It wasn't like anybody said no, I won't come on, or we have to maneuver this or adjust this. Everybody was on point, and I believe like that's how things were supposed to go. It just fell into place. We That's why it was the easiest one because we just let it happen.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I would say if anybody's struggling with like doing stuff creative, I've been writing stuff and making videos since I was a little kid, you know. So I'm pretty pretty like well adjusted to that stuff and in that world, that creative world. And I usually try not to panic if there's not a lot going on, not a lot of ideas, you know what I mean?
And something will
You just
come
got to
there.
let it happen and do a lot of exploration. Like a lot of your ideas are going to come from things that you don't expect, like how you just said, oh, you may not have known that the reason we do all those special episodes because we're wrestling fans or because we're ICP fans, but you're going to get your ideas. Like I don't listen to many podcasts really. I don't get my ideas from other shows. I think that would be lame if
Yeah.
we got our ideas from other shows. I mean, we obviously have inspirations. Like I said, we have DVD ASA, Tiger Belly, Talk is Jericho, Welcome to Dead, but we don't sound like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, we take little aspects of each one. You know, Howard Stern, another huge influence. And we don't want to sound like Howard, but there's definitely things that you can point and go, I could see where that came from,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know? So I always thought like, definitely expand your horizons and try not to take too much. If you're a painter, don't take too much inspiration from painting. If you're a sculptor, don't take too much from sculpting. Go watch a fucking like Cirque du Soleil and see what that brings you.
And see
You know
if
what I
they
mean?
get inspired to go into a different media. To me,
Exactly.
when I was, when we were doing Nata Red last year, heavy into it, I mean, my big influence, and I wasn't trying to do the exact same thing, but my big influence is always like Conan O'Brien, like the old talk show, stuff
Right.
like that, where it's like, where I wanted that to be more of a show, more of a certain way. Like we're gonna intro it this way, and we're gonna have this part and this part. It was a lot more of a structure to it.
Segmented and structured, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, and so there's things that you can do like that. But yeah, it definitely like that's how I've been feeling lately with the creativity of just trying to let it flow. That's why I was not stressing doing much lately. That shows a lot of my contributors seem to have lost a lot of interest in it. And I was like, all right, well, I'm like, it's a lot of work and it's yielding a lot less than what it was before. So I'm like, you know what? I just got to get back to the having fun of it all. And so right now I'm in that, like just having fun recording shit again and
Yeah,
making
there's
it
definitely
easier.
times we got to pivot, like you're
And
doing
just
now.
audio. And
You have to
I'm just
pivot
doing
and do
the
something
audio
new.
now because it makes it a lot easier. And I mean, and that with a lot of people, especially where we do it at my studio in person, it's like, I've had two guests so far now where I'm like, you know what? It's just the audio. Like you don't have to get dolled up. You don't have to. And so they come
Yeah.
and look and scrounge you. Where before it was a whole thing where, well, what time is it? Because I got to get off work. I got to get home. I got to get ready. And so it turns into a whole other thing.
Right.
So this for now is a lot easier. And again, it's just having fun. And I feel like you're always enjoying what you do. And I think
Yeah.
that's a huge part of any creative endeavor is that you have to actually be enjoying it.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, there's definitely a lot of stressors, like, because you want to make it good. So my mind is
Yeah.
always like, is this going to be good enough? Is this going to be, and that's always usually the stuff that's always like my mind before the show and
Yeah.
before we do something. Is this going to be good? Is it going to be good enough? But once it's over, once we're doing it and it looks like it's going fine, I'm having fun.
Yeah.
It's not a lot of fun beforehand for because I'm just kind of nervous about it, or I'm concerned that I want to give people a good show. I don't want to just show up and just do anything. I've never been in that mindset. I want people to really enjoy what we do. So it is stressful because and I want people to enjoy it. And it would kill me if we put something out and people are like, this just is not it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah, and I'm sure that the people that listen to you and follow you, it's because of that, because they know they're going to get something out of it. They're going to be
I hope so.
entertained
Thank you.
in a certain way. So,
Thank you. Yeah, we try to do that with everything we do. You know, whenever when we did YouTube videos, we just wanted to. The audience is always the first thought. It's
yeah.
like sometimes we do things selfishly. And we're like, listen, we don't really care what you guys think about. We want to do this, but that's very seldom. That's why we don't talk about certain things because we're just like we don't know if anybody gives a fuck about that.
Yeah, yeah.
So we're not going to do that. But sometimes I'll be like, I want to talk about this wrestling thing because I think it also would interest you guys. So this is kind of a good gray area here, kind of a happy medium here. But the audience has always been the first thought from the beginning. Like,
Yeah.
what could we do? What should we do for them, and what shouldn't we do?
Yeah, do you ever think you're going to do anything else like the kind of the old short form kind of stuff you were doing before on your old YouTube? Like the scary
YouTube videos?
the scary corner, what was it called?
Oh well, the
Like
spooky
those
corner. I didn't
spooky
even know
corner?
you've seen those.
I've seen a bunch of
Yeah.
those, yeah. Like that
Yeah,
stuff,
I mean,
like you were. I
I'm not-
always felt like those were really cool videos, but
Oh, thank you.
I don't know
man.
if you'd ever
that,
go
that
back
kind of
to
turned
something like
into
that.
the spooky sections on the show.
Yeah, I guess
you know,
so,
like the
yeah.
Halloween special and the spooky segment on the 6 hour. I'm open to doing anything. You know, it just doesn't feel right now. Like that. I think that aspect, like that, it's particular video series is over. You never
Yeah.
know. I think it kind of transcended and moved into some other medium and moved into the podcast. But I think we're like 5 years from now, I have no idea what we're gonna be. I didn't think we were gonna do a podcast. I just thought maybe we should, and I thought like 10 years before, I thought it would be nice to do that, but I would never thought of it and planned to do that. So
But
I don't know
you're-
what we're going to be doing.
But the certain thing is that you're going to be doing something, is what you're
Yeah,
saying.
exactly.
Like you don't know
Yeah,
if in the
like-
next in 10 years from now, you don't know if you're still going to be doing Greedy Knows Best, but you're going to be doing something. You're going to be putting
Yeah.
something out.
Yeah, I mean, I've pretty much done it all. Like, I'm not saying it like I've been successful at it all, but I've done it all. Like, I've written stories and made music and made YouTube videos and did podcasting and performed live. I mean, I've done it all because my brain is very like I can't stick to one thing for too long.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like I like it all. I don't want to do it all at the same time, but whatever appeals to me at the time, I'm going to do it.
Yeah.
I think I have like so many different interests, And
Yeah.
I think that helps the show because we don't stick to one thing on the show. We don't the show. I don't know. I have a lot of respect for people who could do have the same like theme every episode. People like that could do. We're gonna do book reviews every episode, or we're gonna talk only about the news, or we're gonna talk only about wrestling because I cannot do that.
Yeah.
There's no fucking way that I could go on every day for years and talk about the same exact thing. Even though every day it's going to be a different thing, it's going to change. Eventually I'm going to get bored. We talk about horror movies frequently, but not every episode.
Yeah.
We talk about the news frequently, but not every episode. You know what I mean? So that's just how my mind is. I'm just very like sporadic and kind of scatterbrained in that way.
And I think to have a podcast or any type of show where you're going to be talking about the same thing or at least type of thing every episode, that only works if you have that expertise, if you have like experience. Like I would listen to a wrestling podcast if it was like run by Sting or Hulk Hogan or some old
that's the one
guy.
that I listen to. I don't listen to really like fan made ones.
Yeah, but if they're talking about stuff and they know their wrestling stuff and they know they have personal stuff they can talk about, and it's like, well, yeah, something like that. But I would not sit there and talk about it myself because I could put out maybe one good episode of wrestling stuff that I know, and then that'd be all of it. I'd tap out after that. So
I listen to a lot of those wrestling podcasts by wrestlers.
yeah,
Those are great.
That's the kind
Kevin
of stuff.
Nash.
Yeah,
They're really good.
And then and then with the spooky corners, what I was going to tell you about that me and my daughter went down that rabbit hole one time because she came home from school. I don't know, one of her friends or something said something about how if you dialed 666 on the telephone, it would call hell. And I was like, I think I've seen, like, I hadn't seen it, but I'd seen the title. I was like, there's a video about this. And so we watched that one where you do, where you do that. And that was like the first one we watched. Then we just started watching a bunch of them after that.
Oh, that's so cool.
Yeah.
Man.
And which was a funny video. It was like, my daughter was cracking up where you hit, I believe, 999 and it hit, and it 911 answered, and you're like, oh fuck.
I don't even remember that. The
And
police,
that's,
the police answered.
yeah, like 999 was
What did
that
I
was
say? I
911
was like, "Oh,
apparently.
my
You were just
bad.
like,
I don't
oh my bad, I'm
remember."
sorry, like, and you just hung up on them, and, like just shit like that, and it was, and so that's how we went down that rabbit hole, and it's just, so I think if I could recommend anything to other people, like that's the kind of stuff that's fairly timeless. It's where it's not topical or news related. It's like you can still go back and watch those. Like if you run
Yeah.
out of, Gritty knows best stuff that the newer stuff, just go back and watch some of that stuff because I think it's definitely worth a watch still.
I'm very grateful that you said that because I didn't think anybody watched those anymore or at all. But I mean, sometimes people will come to me and be like, "Oh, the spooky corners were great. I used to love those."
Yeah.
Blah blah blah, and I'm just like, "What?" Like I didn't think anybody watched those. I didn't think anybody cared about those. And that was one where I didn't stop for any particular reason. But I remember the day that I stopped doing it. I loved doing it. It was fun. But I was working on a script for Filipino urban legends, and I was just like, I think I'm done. Just no, it was just like it just the feeling washed over me. I
Yeah.
was like, I think I'm done. It's not that I didn't like researching those urban legends and like it wasn't that I didn't like editing. It was just that particular thing. I was done. Same thing with like with music. I made like I thought I was done with music for a long time, and then then one day it came to me like this cover art came to me. These songs came to me. I made one more album, and then after that album, I said I'm done. It's just like I just go with the flow, like you
Yeah.
said, and it's just like and I think because I'm making space for something new. I don't always know what it is, but everything has its time.
Yeah. And that's definitely the limbo I'm in right now. It's like is that the red dead? I think it's close to it, if not already. But I'm not stressing about it. I'm like, we'll do something else. It's the same way when COVID. It's funny. COVID was such a pivotal point for all of us, I guess. I was starting to film the second season of Chicanos and Cars Getting Tacos,
Right.
and then then everything closed down. Nobody wanted to get together anymore, and it's like so that kind of killed that, and then we just never went back to it. So it's like oh things end sometimes because you're done with them, and sometimes they abruptly end because of other things, but you just keep going, you just keep moving on.
I mean, and there's like, this is not like, if it's not like, there's probably tons of times you want to quit something for whatever reason. Maybe you think nobody's listening,
Yeah.
or this aspect of it is too hard, and that's never what it is. Don't get it mistaken with that. Like if you're in the same position, like, well, nobody's listening, so I'm gonna stop, or this aspect
Yeah.
of it is too hard, and I don't know how to do it yet. That's never been it because there's always some kind of hellish part to what you're doing. When I was doing the spooky corners, there was tons of stuff that I didn't like about it. I hated reading stuff from afar. I always have to read stuff from afar
Oh,
because there was
okay.
so much to keep in my mind. I couldn't do it. So I had to kind of read the script from afar. I had to. It was so fucking hot in that room, and I had that fucking hoodie on. It was torture. I mean, filming those sucked. Honestly, I hated filming them, but I loved getting the research, writing the scripts, editing it, doing a thumbnail, putting up. But filming it fucking sucked. And there's the same thing. Like there's certain aspects of the podcast that I'm like, this fucking sucks.
Yeah.
The podcast is actually like one of the least, and music is also one that almost no aspect of it sucks. But you'll have days of it that sucks. Maybe you have to record in the vocal booth and it's frying in there, or your voice is not right. I'm not one that does not that just is like deterred by little obstacles or things like that. I'm pretty. I like to persevere through things like that. That's never the case. It's always when something's done, you just get like this internal knowing about it. It's never because of an obstacle or because of a challenge. Like you have to persevere through those things. You got to be tough through that. Like that's what's going to separate you from everybody else. Because most of the people that started a show during COVID did it because they were bored and they had no idea what was going to come with that, and they weren't going to persevere, and that's fine.
And they tapped
It's
out
like,
really quick. You see
I'm
a
not
lot of
trying to
those
fucking
podcasts from that era have 3-4 episodes and they were done.
exactly, and that's fine. You want to try something, like I'm not trying to like be a podcast like Gatekeeper or anything like that, or being elitist,
try it.
But it's just the way it is.
It's easy
If you
enough
want
to
do,
start.
and I got that from being a wrestler in high school, like learning how to persevere through things when you have to wrestle, but your shoulders messed up, you have a headache, you're ready to vomit, and that's where I learned that from. So that's what I would say to anybody too. It's like don't use challenges and obstacles as an excuse That's not what this conversation is about. This conversation is about if you just it's hard to articulate, but you know when something's done. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But
Yeah, and
persevering through obstacle is like a huge part of it.
I think a big part of that is what I was saying, the having fun, the enjoying what you're doing. Like if you're enjoying it, you know, and it's happened to me with different projects, you know, like the music stuff also and everything. It's like certain aspects of it suck, but you enjoy it enough to where it doesn't really matter anymore.
Yeah,
Even just getting
the
live.
overall,
Yeah, it's like
the overall thing is great. You like that, but there's gonna be parts of it you're not
Yeah.
gonna like, and it's worth it. You know it's worth it.
and I relate that back to playing live music, where it's like I hate loading up the van or the truck or whatever it was we were using. And
Yeah.
I hate setting up, and I even hate even more at the end having to pack back up. You know, when you're already tired and stuff. It's like,
Right.
but the stage time was what made it worth it. And same thing with like the video podcast, like the setup and the editing, all that stuff was kind of you know, was hell. But I was having enough enjoyment in it that it was worth it.
Yeah,
So,
and that's when the obstacles sometimes become fun. That's
Yeah.
when the challenges become fun. That's a whole another aspect to it that you can enjoy if you really like get in there and get in the mix. You know, we have all kind of issues that we have to solve, and a lot. Sometimes I kind of smile because I'm like, this is, you know, I'm solving these problems with my friends. This is exciting. This is fun. Not everything is like that. Some things are like totally catastrophic, and you're like, how the hell? But you're gonna make it through 'em all the time, most of the time. Like I can't think of a challenge that we failed at, that we didn't do because we just, you know, we love it. Like it's actually fun to a certain extent to deal with those challenges.
yeah, and that's the thing. They're never impossible. You know, you're gonna get through it.
No,
You just
it
have
may
to,
feel like
like you
that,
said, you
but
just have
like
to
I said, that's what I learned
your
from
teeth
wrestling.
and keep
Like
going. Yeah.
you're gonna, you may have like a toothache, you may have you know, your ankle might be messed up, and you're gonna feel that up until the whistle blows. And that's what I learned
Yeah.
from wrestling. Up until the whistle blows, you're gonna feel like hell. Whatever you're going through, it's gonna be like persisting on you. It's gonna be on your back, and you're not gonna even think you could do it. Once that whistle blows and your opponent is in your fucking face, you're gonna go. And that's the same thing with pretty much anything. If you want to go perform on stage, you got a big violin recital and your tooth hurts and shit. I mean, it's gonna suck the whole time. You're not even gonna think you could do it. You
Yeah.
got COVID and you have a big dance thing, but once you know the crowd is there and the lights go on, you're gonna fucking go. You have no other option, pretty much.
Yeah.
You know, it's like something else takes over you and you're gonna go.
Yeah. And that
So
reminds me.
you have to just get there. That's my thing. You just have to make sure you get there. That's the hardest part.
Yeah.
Once it's on, it's on.
That reminds me a lot. Like I know that feeling from live performing, you know, especially like back in the day when I was heavy into it, where it was like summertime. Sometimes you'd be super dehydrated, traveling all day, and you'd be feeling like shit. Especially if we did like a Friday and Saturday, you'd be kind of half hungover, just dehydrated, feeling like shit. But as soon as it was showtime, it's like none of that mattered. And it's sometimes as soon as you stop playing, you felt like shit again. But that
Yeah.
during the performance, like forget about all that.
And you feel great when you're done. Like
Yeah.
you,
Yeah,
there's
got
no
it
way you
done.
don't. You're not
It's-
proud of
it's-
yourself. Like it's
You
part of the
got
game.
it over
it's
with,
part
and
of
you feel good about
whatever
it.
you're doing.
Yeah.
That you're gonna separate yourself from everybody else because somebody quit because they had this instance. They broke up with their girlfriend or boyfriend. Now
Yeah,
they can't perform. But you did, and you're gonna feel tons of confidence after that.
And you're just down.
Like when
and
I got
down.
off that 6-hour show after doing COVID, I thought I was the
Oh,
man.
shit.
I was like, hell yeah. Because I was dying before that. I was
Yeah.
like, I couldn't even fathom how I was going to do it.
But you got through it.
was
Put on
brutal.
a great show, man. Hell yeah. Well, we're reaching about an hour. That's first time. We'll finish with the question I've been given every guest on their first time on the show, which is because well, you're not married. Do you think you're gonna get married there, Griddy?
I don't know if I'm ever getting married, but do I see myself committing to somebody for a long time? Yeah, but maybe not legally. I don't know if like we need to do things
Yeah.
legally.
No, yeah, I would advise
But
against that.
do I see myself having like a wife, spiritual partner for life? Yeah.
Yeah, because a lot of people think it's difficult to choose, your groomsmen and the bridesmaids and all that shit because you don't want to leave anyone out and all that
Yeah.
shit.
Yeah.
But something even more important than that, and maybe just as difficult, but at the same time, it doesn't really matter because you won't be around. But if you die today, who would your groomsmen be tomorrow?
If I died, who would my groomsmen be, or my
Oh,
or the
you're
pallbearers?
pallbearers, yeah.
I was, I was like, we mixing it up. My pall. How many do you get? 6.
I think 6, yeah.
Uh, the height difference would be kind of crazy with Justin in there. I don't know. The coffin would definitely be
Be
leaning
wobbling around,
down.
yeah.
He's gonna have to get on some stilts or something. But if I get 6, it's gonna be Justin, Dre, Clay, Clay, EJ. And I get 2 more. Justin, Dre, Clay, EJ, Mo, and my dad.
There you go.
That's it.
Who's the tallest out of those? Is it Dre?
Dre or Mo?
They're both up a
Dre or
little
Mo. I
taller.
think they might be almost even.
Yeah.
I can't think of who's taller.
Yeah. Yeah, that
That's
makes
a
sense.
great question. Very morbid. We're definitely into the morbid questions on
Yeah,
my show.
yeah.
The morbidity.
Yeah, that's
like that.
that's been the end question to this whole series. And
I like podcasts like that have the same end question. I always thought about that, but I can't think of one. And maybe for season 7.
yeah. See, I've been doing that with. It started on episode 2. It didn't even start on the first one. Just it happened organically because we were talking about my friend's wedding, and then
Nice.
I was like, "Well, who would your pallbearers be?"
Pallbearers be?
And so from there, I've just been asking everybody on their first time around, and now it's not on every episode just because I'm starting to have like repeat guests and stuff. So
Yeah.
But
You got to come up with a repeat question.
Yeah,
A second round.
for sure. But I mean, I'm glad that you were able to pick that fast too, though, which I kind of assumed, honestly. It's like that.
Some people took you had to cut it out. It cut down their time. Took an hour.
Yeah, pretty much.
I'm very blessed to have this many. I have so many great people in my life, and I'm very blessed.
That's good.
Tons
man.
of them.
That's awesome, and that's something that really helps out when you're doing the creative stuff to have people.
Oh,
and
yeah,
the latest 6-hour special, I think, proved that. Also, just the fact that I believe you counted 12 people.
12 people, and we missed. And we
involved.
have 5 missing from that show.
Yeah.
If you really want to get technical, we missed 5.
Yeah, of the
So was
usuals.
that 17?
Yeah, it's a lot. It's a big crew,
Yeah.
but it makes it
Thank
easier
God for
for
all
sure.
of them. Thank God for all you guys for sure.
Hell yeah! But that's the end of this episode of Roddy Radio.
Wow, I've done it.
You're a guest on the show for once, and so last words. Go ahead and say goodbye to the people.
Thank you for having me. This was fun. I didn't think it was going to go this fast, so I hope that means it was good. Very appreciative. And listen to Griddy Knows Best on all platforms.
Hell yeah.